Is kissing a weapon? Alien girl asks nervously. Human demonstrates immediately. Kale's first thought was, God damn, she looks like something out of a fever dream. All hard angles and smooth, shimmering obsidian skin that pulsed with faint violet light under the twin moons of this godforsaken rock. Her eyes, enormous and multifaceted like a fly's, but somehow intensely focused, pinned him where he lay tangled in the wreckage of the stray dog. Dust coated everything, the air thin and smelling of ozone and hot sand. He'd been picking through the debris for anything salvageable after the atmospheric entry tore the freighter apart, hoping to salvage enough credit chips to get off this backwater planetoid before he starved or boiled. Then she appeared, silent, fast, deadly. She wore nothing but intricate glowing geometric patterns tattooed across her frame, a segmented living armor that shifted and reformed as she moved. A low hum vibrated from her throat nodes, a sound that felt more like a physical pressure than noise. She held a spear, not metal, but some kind of crystalline growth from this planet, its point humming with contained energy. You, ground crawler, you pollute sacred dust. Her voice was a strange mix of clicks and resonant tones, somehow both commanding and curious. He pushed himself up, wincing at the ache in his ribs. His scanner was busted, comms dead. Just him, the wreck, and the glowing death goddess. Look, lady, I didn't mean to land on your lawn, Kale said, pushing sand out of his ear. My ship went boom. Happens. I just need spare parts and maybe directions to the nearest spaceport that isn't, on a planet that tries to cook you. He managed a lopsided grin, his standard defense mechanism. Sarcasm had saved him from worse things than angry aliens usually. She tilted her head, the facets of her eyes catching the pale moonlight. The humming intensified. Boom? Is that a ritual term for arrival without permission? You performed the boom ritual? Oh, fuck. No. Boom means, not my ride exploded. Stopped working. Went bye-bye. He made an explosion gesture with his hands, her gaze fixated on his hands. Your appendages, they mime destruction? Is this part of the boom ritual? She stepped closer, the tip of the crystal spear lowering slightly. The air around it shimmered. He could feel heat radiating from her, not just from the twin suns starting to peek over the horizon, but from her body itself. Look, forget boom. It was a crash. An accident. No ritual, I promise. I'm just trying to not die out here. His grin felt less effective now. She circled him slowly, assessing. He kept his hands visible, trying not to look like a threat, which was hard when every instinct screamed run. Accident. Your species' term for defiance of destiny? The dust claims those who do not follow path. You did not follow path. Her humming lowered a pitch, sounding almost thoughtful. But you survive. The dust does not claim you, curious. She stopped directly in front of him, close enough he could feel the warmth radiating off her skin, see the complex patterns shifting and reforming. You survived the dust. You must be tested. Surrender, ground crawler? The Empress demands it. Empress? Oh, double fuck. He didn't have much choice. The spear looked painful, and she moved with a predator's grace. He raised his hands slowly. All right, test me. Just no spear poking, okay? I've had a rough day. Her multi-faced eyes seemed to narrow, if that was possible. The humming from her throat nodes changed again, faster now, more insistent. Surrender is the first step. It is. Ayudar. All the town amotov the Adambach. Acceptance of dominance. You accept? He shrugged. Sure, you're clearly bigger, faster, and glowier than me. Dominance accepted. Now what's the test? She studied him for a long moment. Your scent? It is unfamiliar. Sharp. Not of this dust. Not of my kind. She leaned closer, and a faint, sweet scent hit him. Something like metal and desert bloom. It stirred something deep and unwelcome in his gut. She sniffed the air around his neck. You smell? Of exile, or something. Unclaimed. Unclaimed? What the hell does that mean? Look, I don't know what unclaimed smells like, but I haven't exactly been perfume shopping lately. Just traveling solo? My ship, remember? Boom. He immediately regretted saying boom again. Her attention snapped back to him, an unnerving intensity in those eyes. Boom, she repeated, tasting the word. Perhaps it is a sacred word, part of the ritual. You speak the word. You survived the dust. You are presented. She gestured with the spear towards a massive crumbling structure on the horizon, half buried in the sand. It looked ancient, like a collapsed ribcage of some colossal beast, made of the same glowing, shifting material as her armor. The arena of whispers. You will enter. The test awaits. She turned and began walking towards it, not looking back, assuming he would follow. Of course she does. He groaned inwardly. Great. A mysterious death goddess on a death world wants him for a test in a death arena. Just his luck. He pulled himself fully upright, brushed off his trousers, and limped after her, watching the shifting patterns on her back, feeling the strange pull of her presence, and wondering what kind of goddamn test involves surviving his ship going boom. The walk across the scorching sand felt endless. The structure grew, looming larger, its strange material groaning faintly in the heat. He kept pace behind Vrika. He'd risked asking her name during the walk, and she'd given it with the same flat, commanding tone. Vrika. It suited her. She hadn't offered hers until he asked, clearly not seeing him as worthy of the information unless he requested it. The entrance was a yawning maw in the side of the ruins, framed by towering crystalline spikes that seemed to pulse with a deep internal light. Inside, it was cooler, the air still and heavy. The ground wasn't sand, but smooth, polished rock, veined with the same glowing material as the spikes. It looked like blood vessels running through stone. Strange symbols were etched into the walls, glowing faintly, depicting figures that resembled Vrika and other beings, some fighting, some locked in what looked like strange embraces. The humming intensified here, echoing off the walls. It resonated in his bones. This is the arena? Kale asked, his voice huskier than he expected. Vrika stopped at the center of a wide circular space. The ceiling was open to the sky, letting in the harsh light, but the walls rose high, muffling external sound. It is the threshold, where weakness is purged, where strength is claimed. She turned to face him, her eyes scanning him again, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths. You are the small, soft-skinned. Your movements lack fluid grace. She tapped his chest lightly with the butt of her spear. The contact sent a jolt through him. Not painful, but like a static shock amplified 100 times. You rely on words. Strange sounds like boom. What weapon do you possess, groundcrawler? Kale leaned against the smooth stone wall, trying to appear casual despite the unsettling hum and the alien warrior studying him. Weapon? Define weapon. I've got quick hands, faster mouth, and a knack for staying alive when I shouldn't. He tapped his temple. This is usually my best weapon, and occasionally a well-aimed rock. He gestured vaguely. Or, I had a plasma pistol, until boom. He saw the tiny flicker again in her eyes at the word. He was starting to think the boom thing was important, and maybe not in a good way. Quick hands, fast mouth. She repeated the terms slowly, as if translating them into her own internal lexicon. You speak of agility and manipulation and vocal projection. How do these defeat raid? A disruptor? The dust itself? She advanced slowly, holding the spear point down. Her stance was relaxed, but radiating coiled power. They help you avoid the blade, talk your way out of needing the disruptor, and maybe convince someone else to brave the dust. He straightened up. Survival isn't always about hitting things harder. Sometimes it's about not getting hit at all, or making someone else do the hitting. She stopped mere inches from him. He could see the fine details of her skin, the way the light shifted under the surface, the tiny, almost invisible tendrils around her eyes. Survival is claimed through dominance, she stated, her voice low and resonant. The weak are consumed by the dust, by predators, by stronger mates. She reached out a hand, not holding the spear, and touched his arm. Her skin was warm, dry, and firm. The glowing patterns on her arm seemed to brighten where she touched him. Your skin, one heard in her in fulls. Your skin. It does not reflect light. It absorbs. Like the shadows. She ran a finger up his arm, a deliberate measuring touch that sent a shiver down his spine. You are soft, yet resilient, strange. He swallowed, trying to ignore the physical reaction. Yeah, well, humans are pretty good at adapting. Survival is our main thing. Her touch lingered, sending ripples of warmth and that strange electrical sensation through him. It wasn't overtly sexual yet, but it was intensely physical, invasive, adapting, she mused. changing form to fit circumstance, a useful trait. But the greatest adaptation, Miles is claiming what is needed, dominance. Her finger traced the faint scar on his forearm from a past scrape with a territorial hover bear. This marking, is it significant? Just done. A scar, he said, from a fight I lost. He pulled his arm back slightly, uncomfortable with her intense scrutiny. She didn't let go immediately. A loss? Failure is not acceptable. You did not claim victory? Didn't have the right weapon, Kale said, forcing a grin. Bear was bigger. Vrika retracted her hand slowly. Bigger does not always equate to dominance. The predator may be larger, but the hunter is dominant. She turned, looking up at the open sky above the arena. The test is simple, ground crawler. You must prove your worthiness to exist within this space. You will face, dolefully, trials of strength, cunning, and resonance. Resonance. That sounded suspiciously like the humming and glowing stuff. Great. What kind of trials? He asked, feeling a prickle of unease. Physical combat? Maze running? Alien karaoke? She didn't smile. You will see. But know this. Failure means integration into the dust. You become part of the silence. Success. That means you are deemed worthy. And then, Jebet cold, the Varney one of Cone, and then Poke. She paused, turning back to him, her gaze locking onto his with an intensity that stole his breath. Then you become mine, claimed. By ritual and by right, the humming from her throat nodes escalated, a low, insistent thrum that seemed to vibrate inside his own skull. It wasn't a negotiation. It was a declaration. The sexual tension, the sheer power imbalance hit him like a physical blow. Becoming hers? That sounded a hell of a lot more complicated than just surviving a test. Before Kale could process the implication of being claimed, the ground began to shift. Not an earthquake, but the smooth floor of the arena rippled like water, and sections of the wall slid inward, revealing dark alcoves. From the darkness, strange, angular creatures emerged. Guardians, sentinels, whatever they were. They looked like they were made of sharpened shadows and crackling energy. Their eyes glowed the same violet as Vrika's tattoos, but with a cold, predatory light. The first trial, Vrika stated, stepping back slightly. Survival against the unformed. Prove your quick hands and agility. Show you are not consumed. She held her spear ready, but made no move to join him. This was his test. Kale scrambled back as the first creature lunged, a low growl rumbling from its chest cavity. He was unarmed, wearing only torn clothes and a busted datapad holster. All right, quick hands it is, he yelled, dodging the snapping jaws. The creatures moved with surprising speed, flowing around him. He ducked, weaved, and used the pillars and shifting walls for cover. This was familiar ground, the art of not getting caught. He'd spent years running from things faster and stronger than him. It was less about fighting, more about evasion, predicting movement, finding the blind spots. Vrika watched from the center, her gaze following his frantic movements. She didn't offer help, but he felt her presence, a strange anchor in the chaos. The humming from her throat nodes intensified with the action, almost like she was feeding energy to the creatures, or perhaps just observing with intense focus. He managed to grab a loose piece of crystalline rock from the floor and hurled it at one of the creatures. It struck the shadow thing's head with a sharp crack, and it recoiled, momentarily stunned. Vrika's humming changed pitch again, a quick, sharp burst. Was that unapproval? He didn't have time to think about it. Another creature lunged. He dodged under its arm, sliding across the polished floor. His hand brushed against the strange, glowing veins in the rock. As he touched them, they pulsed brighter, and a section of the wall near him shimmered, momentarily confusing the creature pursuing him. Okay, the environment is reactive. Maybe that was the resonance part. He tried it again, deliberately touching a vein as he dodged past another one. The light flared, the ground hummed, and the creatures seemed disoriented by the sudden shift in ambient energy. Resonance, he yelled, more to himself than her. It's the veins. You use the veins. Vrika tilted her head, her multifaceted eyes tracking him. The dust veins, she confirmed, her voice carrying clearly over the growls and his own ragged breathing. They channel the life pulse of this world. You, to resonate with them? He didn't know if he resonated, but touching them sure as hell confused the shadow things. He started incorporating it into his movements, slapping the glowing lines as he dodged, creating bursts of light and energy that disrupted the creature's attacks. It wasn't fighting, it was dancing with the environment, using its power against the attackers. He was getting good at it, a desperate rhythm of evasion and activation. Finally, after what felt like an hour of dodging and glowing vein slapping, the creatures retreated back into the alcoves, melting into the shadows as quickly as they appeared. He stood in the center of the arena, panting, sweat dripping down his face, his body aching. He looked at Vrika. She hadn't moved. Her humming was steady now, lower, a vibration of contemplation. "You did not fight," she observed. "You, juggled the interacted with the veins, with the space." "I didn't have a spear," Kale said, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. "So I used the arena instead. Adapting, remember? Used what I had." A long silence stretched between them, filled only by his harsh breathing and the low hum of the arena. She walked towards him slowly. He tensed, expecting another trial, another attack. But she stopped in front of him, raising a hand. He flinched, expecting a blow or another strange touch. Instead, she reached out and gently touched his damp hair. "Your quick hands have potential," she said, her voice softer than before, though still resonant. "You did not claim dominance over the unformed through strength. You claimed dominance over the space they inhabited. A different path." She lowered her hand, her eyes searching his face. "You surprise me, groundcrawler. Your scent. It grows stronger. More ill-defined. The dust does not suppress you. What is with the scent thing?" He shook his head, still trying to catch his breath. "Look, I just survived. What's next?" Her gaze dropped to his mouth. The humming intensified, almost a purr. "Next is the test of resonance." She leaned in, her multifaceted eyes huge and utterly captivating. "Is kissing a weapon?" she asked, her voice a low rumble, strangely hesitant despite her commanding presence. Alien girl asks nervously, human demonstrates immediately. The line was delivered with surprising gravity, almost like a ritual challenge or a genuine query about a dangerous concept. He blinked, caught completely off guard by the directness and the bizarre nature of the question. He stared at her, panting, sweat dripping. The humming from her throat nodes filled the space between them. Her enormous eyes, complex and shimmering, were fixed on his mouth. "Kissing," he finally managed, the word foreign on his tongue in this context. "You, tongue buck? You want to know if kissing is a weapon?" His mind scrambled. Was this part of the resonance test? Some alien mating ritual he'd stumbled into? Or was she genuinely asking about human customs, framing it in the language of conflict she understood? "Okay, Kale, don't screw this up." He needed to respond in a way that maintained his precarious position, surviving but still potentially food for the dust or subject to claiming. He could be sarcastic, deflect, telling you lean into it. He remembered her statement about claiming dominance, about adapting. He remembered her calling him unclaimed. Maybe this was her way of asserting control, of trying to understand a perceived vulnerability or strength in him. Or maybe she was testing his reaction to intimacy, alien style. Given her culture seemed to revolve around dominance and claiming, maybe this was the ultimate act of claiming, not just physical dominance, but something, the 4C. Saman dagtadagstarli ultimate imam. Saman dagtadags the ultimate abratamur andab. Else, kissing? He paused, letting the tension build. He could feel his heart pounding. The air was thick with anticipation. "Yeah, Vrika, it can be." He stepped closer, deliberately closing the small distance between them. Her multifaceted eyes widened almost imperceptibly, the light inside them flickering faster. The humming in her throat nodes went completely silent for the first time. "It can be a weapon," he repeated, his voice low and rough. "Or, Del, it can be something else." He reached up, slowly, and cupped her face with his hands. Her skin was smooth, warm, alien. He could feel the faint pulse of the glowing patterns under his thumbs. She stood perfectly still, watching him with an intense, unblinking gaze. No flinching, no resistance, just pure, unadulterated focus. "It depends," he murmured, looking into her strange, beautiful eyes, "on who's doing the kissing, and why." He lowered his head slowly. He could feel her warm breath on his lips. It smelled faintly of the strange desert blooms outside, and something else, something uniquely her. He hesitated for just a fraction of a second, assessing her reaction. Still no resistance. Just that unnerving focus. Okay. Here goes everything. He leaned in and pressed his lips against hers. It wasn't like kissing a human. Her lips were structured differently, firmer, yet yielding in an unexpected way. There was no softness, just a unique texture. The strange warmth of her skin transferred, not just from his hands, but from her mouth. The humming in her throat nodes didn't restart, but he felt a different kind of vibration pass between them. A deep resonance that mirrored the pulse of the glowing veins in the arena floor. It wasn't just a physical touch, it felt like an exchange of energy, a brief, intense surge that left him lightheaded. He kept the kiss gentle at first, a simple pressing of mouths, letting her process it. He felt her body stiffen slightly, not in fear, but in surprise, in intense sensory processing. Then slowly, hesitantly, she responded. Her lips shifted against his, exploring the texture, the pressure. A tiny, almost inaudible click came from her mouth. He deepened the kiss slightly, parting his lips, inviting a different kind of contact. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with surprising speed, her response changed. She pressed back, harder, her head tilting slightly, mimicking his movement with an almost frightening intensity. The contact became demanding, seeking. Her hands, previously still at her sides, came up to grip his arms, her fingers digging into his skin. The glowing patterns on her skin pulsed brighter, faster, syncing with the rapid beat of his heart. The humming started again, low and guttural, escalating quickly. It wasn't just a sound, it was a feeling, vibrating through his chest, syncing with his own internal resonance. It wasn't just a kiss anymore, it was a consumption, an intake of sensation and energy. He felt a dizzying rush, the air around them seeming to warp and shimmer. This was the resonance part of the test, he realized, hitting him with the force of a physical blow. It wasn't just about interacting with the environment. It was about interacting with her alien biology, her unique energy signature. And it was intense. He pulled back, breaking the kiss, needing air, needing a moment to process the sheer alienness of the contact. His lips tingled. His body felt strangely energized, yet drained. Vreka stood still, her chest rising and falling rapidly. The humming from her throat nodes a loud, resonant thrum. Her eyes, usually so focused, seemed slightly unfocused for a moment, the multifaceted irises swirling with violet light. She lifted a hand to her mouth, touching her lips with a long, slender finger. "It is a consumption," she stated, her voice raspy. "An intake of essence, not a weapon." She looked at him, her gaze returning to its intense focus. But something had shifted. The distance was gone. The power dynamic was still there, but it was now laced with something new, something intimate and raw. "Your essence, it resonates with mine, strongly." This was the test. The final trial. She lowered her hand, her glowing eyes locking onto his. "You have passed. The resonance is undeniable. You are." "But," claimed. "Oh, I claimed." He swallowed hard, still reeling from the kiss, the energy exchange, the sudden shift. "Claimed," he repeated. "Yeah, you said that before. What exactly does that mean, Vrika? Besides the creepy resonance thing?" She walked towards him again, slowly, deliberately. Her glowing patterns were vivid now, radiating warmth. "It means you are no longer unclaimed. You belong to me. By right of resonance, by right of trial." She stopped in front of him, reaching out to touch his chest, directly over his heart. The humming intensified, syncing with his pulse. It felt like a physical connection was being forged, not just a metaphor. "My essence is marked by yours. Your scent. It is now linked to me. This space recognizes you. The dust, though it will not consume what is claimed." Her touch was possessive, absolute. This wasn't a romantic declaration in the human sense. It was a statement of ownership, of biological and ritualistic binding. This resonance, out is the trigger for the bond. The bond, another alien term, loaded with unknown meaning. He felt trapped, exhilarated, terrified all at once. He'd survived the dust, the creatures, the crash, his own smart mouth, only to be claimed by the glowing death goddess via a kiss that felt like being plugged into a power grid. "So, I'm yours now?" he asked, the sarcasm thin and brittle. "Like, property? A pet?" Her multifaceted eyes seemed to flash. Property is inert. A pet defers a master. You are neither. You are a piece of my existence, bound to mine. We are. Datis Plauti Odin Modi Argatackle. Resonant. The bond ensures survival, for both. She leaned closer again, her voice a low rumble. My culture understands claiming dominance through resonance, through shared essence. You gave yours, I gave mine. She tilted her head, a gesture he was starting to recognize as curiosity. Your species performs this kissing ritual frequently. Is it always? Thought so potent? Or only with resonant partners? He almost laughed, the sheer absurdity of the situation hitting him. Not usually. Not like that. That felt different. Maybe it's just you. He risked reaching out and touching her face again. Her skin pulsed under his fingers. As he touched her face, a high-pitched keening sound echoed through the arena. Not from Vrika, but from somewhere above, outside, a shadow fell over the open ceiling. It wasn't a cloud. It was large, dark, and moving with unnatural speed. Vrika's demeanor snapped from curious intimacy to coiled aggression. The consumed, she growled, looking up. They are drawn by strong resonance, by the forging of a bond. The shadow creatures from the first trial reappeared from the alcoves, but this time they seemed agitated, looking up at the sky, whimpering low in their chests. The keening grew louder, closer. Then, from the darkness above, they descended. They were larger, more defined versions of the shadow creatures, with glinting teeth and eyes that burned with hunger. Predators. Drawn by the very bond that was supposed to ensure survival. Villains, Kale muttered, recognizing the trope even in this alien nightmare. Right on schedule. Vrika grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong, pulling him towards a narrow passage he hadn't noticed before. Come. We must reach the moon shadows. The bond draws them, but it can also be bioluminescent. Mind, you are kept. Brainier PM, Alpenschade Bliani Dishosabaring Bush. Shielded. Within the sacred spaces. Sacred spaces. Shielding. Bonded mates being hunted by resonance predators. His life had gone from scavenging wreckage to dodging death and inadvertently marrying an alien empress in approximately 12 hours. What are those things? He asked as they ran, the keening echoing behind them. They seek essence, life pulse, strong bonds. They are a feast to them. Her glowing patterns flared, throwing erratic light in the dark passage. My elders, Jamited Gupuis, my elders Polding, they sent them to test the strength of the resonance.
To ensure the claim is worthy, if the bond is weak, Dadviatis, your wake.
We are consumed. Her elders. The patriarchal authority using predators to test the strength of her bond? Charming culture. He stumbled and she held him steady, pulling him along. His ribs ached, his legs burned, but adrenaline surged through him. He was bonded to this creature, hunted by her own kind's enforcers/predators. His fate was now completely intertwined with hers. They burst out of the passage onto a rocky plateau overlooking the vast, shimmering desert. Above, the twin moons were higher, casting long, deep shadows. The keening predators were visible now against the sky, dark shapes diving towards them. Vrika pulled him towards a cluster of tall, spire-like rocks that seemed to pulse with a faint, internal light. These are the moon shadow spires, she explained, her voice urgent. Formed where the moon's resonance is strongest. We can cloak the bond's frequency here. For a time, they scrambled into the narrow gaps between the spires, the glowing rock pressing close. The keening outside grew frantic, the sound of frustrated hunger. He could hear the predators circling, their claws scrabbling against the spires, but they didn't enter the space between them. The air here felt different, colder, thicker with the strange resonance. Vrika sank down against the rock, pulling Kale with her, her body pressed against his side, radiating warmth. The humming from her throat nodes was a low, steady pulse, a comforting vibration in the confined space. They cannot breach the moon shadows, she said, catching her breath. Not directly, but they wait. And the elders, they will send others if we do not present ourselves. Present themselves, to be judged, presumably. Kale leaned back against the spire, trying to slow his breathing. Present ourselves is what? Bonded mates who pass the is kissing a weapon? Trial? He knew he shouldn't be sarcastic, but it was ingrained. Vrika looked at him, her multifaceted eyes softer in the dim light of the spires. As resonant, as claimed, the trial in the arena, to attest initial compatibility, the predators, they test the strength to survive together, to prove the bond is worthy of continuation. So my survival skills and kissing ability make me worthy? Kale asked, a genuine question this time, stripped of most of the sarcasm by exhaustion and shock. Verka considered this, your ability to resonate with the space, your defiance of consumption, your surprising resonance with me. Yes, these make you worthy of being claimed, worthy of bonding. She shifted, turning slightly to face him in the tight space. Her hand rested on his arm again, her fingers tracing the contours of his muscle. The kissing pattern, it was the trigger. The focus of resonance, the melding of essences. Your species uses this. Bah, for what purpose? Beyond trial? He hesitated. How did he explain human kissing? Love? Affection? Desire? Intimacy? We use it for a lot of things, he said slowly. Sometimes for greeting, sometimes for comfort, sometimes, quite deep, to show someone they're important to you, to express connection, affection. The word felt fragile and alien in this context. Vrika repeated the word, tasting it. Affection. Is that related to resonance? Maybe, Kale said, trying to bridge the vast cultural gap. It's a feeling, a pull towards someone, wanting to be close to them, like when you touched me, and it felt like that humming. That was a kind of resonance, I guess. But affection is the feeling behind it, the emotional part. Her multi-faced eyes studied him intently. He felt vulnerable, exposed. Not physically, but emotionally. He was talking about feelings with an alien warrior empress who saw intimacy through the lens of dominance and ritual. Emotional part, Vrika mused, her thumb stroking his arm. My people, we understand need, dominance, duty. Resonance guides us. Ritual binds us. Affection. Though this is new. She leaned her head back against the rock, her gaze still fixed on him. You speak of things, Dakines, unseen, yet your essence vibrates with to something. During the resonance, during the kissing, I felt a surge, not just of energy, something chaotic. Yet, dot around. Ako no krusta, no kortalo, no krusta. You sikun verken farted. Compelling. Her voice dropped to a low, almost hesitant tone. It was not purely of dominance, not purely of need. It was Mokero. Something else. Is that Devection? He nodded, finding his voice again. Yeah, Vrika, that could be it. It's messy, confusing, not clean like dominance or duty. He shifted, his body aching but strangely energized by the shared space and her closeness. The constant presence of the predators outside, the looming threat of her elders, created an intense, forced intimacy. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide except here, pressed against her in the glowing rock. So what now? He asked. We just wait here until they get bored? Or do we present ourselves for judgment? She was silent for a long moment, the humming a steady purr against his side. The elders will not grow bored. They will bring judgment to us, here, or we seek judgment from them. Our choice determines the terms of engagement. She looked up at him again, her eyes holding a new depth. My culture demands ritual, a public declaration of claim, of resonance. If we hide, we are deemed weak. The bond, invalid. We are consumed. If we present ourselves, we challenge their judgment. We prove the strength of our bond, our dominance, the benstelar. Together. Dominance. Together, Kale repeated. The idea of being a unit with this alien warrior presenting a united front was both terrifying and oddly appealing. He was a scavenger, a survivor, always solo. The idea of being bonded to someone, especially someone this powerful and alien, was completely outside his experience, but he felt the pull, the strange resonance that still hummed in his bones from the kiss, the undeniable physical connection forged in the arena and amplified by their shared danger. He thought about the predator keening outside, the unforgiving landscape, his crashed ship, He wasn't getting off this rock alone, and frankly, being claimed by Vrika, while bizarre, felt like a more certain path to survival than anything else. "So, we show up, hold hands, and tell your elders we kissed?" he asked, a hint of his usual sarcasm returning but softer this time. Vrika didn't get the sarcasm or chose to ignore it. "We present ourselves as resonant, as claimed. The ritual requires Dadarani demonstration, a reaffirmation of the bond's strength, under their gaze. A demonstration, under their gaze. Given how the bond was triggered, he had a sinking feeling about what that demonstration might involve. "A demonstration," he said slowly. "Like, John Buich, the fuck you is." "Another kiss? For the elders?" Her multifaceted eyes seemed to soften further. The humming intensified, filled with a complex mix of anticipation and something that might, just might, be vulnerability. "The ritual. Do I?" It is flexible in form but absolute in requirement. It demands the full expression of resonance, of claim. She reached out, her hand cupping his jaw, her thumb tracing the line of his mouth. "It demands the merging of essences. The physical declaration of the bond, under the moons, under the eyes of the ancestors." She pulled him closer in the tight space, her warm body pressing against his. The resonance between them flared, a palpable heat. The air in the moon shadow spires grew thick with anticipation, not just from the lingering threat outside, but from the potent energy radiating between them. Vrika's hand tightened on his jaw, her grip firm but not painful. He could feel the complex shifting patterns on her skin pulsing under his touch. Her multifaceted eyes, closed now, were deep pools of violet light, reflecting the twin moons and the faint glow of the spires. The low hum from her throat nodes was a continuous, resonant vibration that seemed to wrap around him. "The ritual demands the full expression of resonance," she repeated, her voice a low, guttural purr that vibrated against his ear as she leaned closer. "The ultimate claiming. To prove the bond is strong enough to defy the dust, defy the consumed, defy the judgment of the elders." Her head tilted, her mouth hovering just inches from his. "You resonated with the arena. You resonated with me. Now we must resonate completely, in unity." For them to witness, he understood. The demonstration wasn't just a show, it was a renewal, an amplification of the bond triggered by the kiss. It had to be absolute, physical, total, and it had to happen now, before the elders or the predators broke through their sanctuary. He reached up, pulling her closer, letting his hands tangle in the smooth, strange material of her living armor, feeling the warmth and subtle shifts beneath his touch. "All right, Vrika," he breathed, his voice raspy. "Let's resonate. Let's show your elders what claimed looks like." He captured her mouth in another kiss, deeper and more deliberate this time. The initial alien texture was still there, but now familiar, inviting. The strange energy exchange began instantly, a surge of heat and light that flared between their bodies, mirroring the glow of the spires. Her response was immediate and overwhelming. She pressed against him, her body a furnace of heat and raw energy. The humming from her throat nodes exploded into a frantic, high-pitched chorus that filled the confined space. Her arms wrapped around him, pulling him tight against her, his face pressed into the curve of her neck. He could feel the vibrations deep in his chest, in his very bones, resonating with his own pulse, his own energy signature. Her living armor seemed to soften slightly where it touched him, melding against his skin. The kiss deepened, became ravenous. It was a clash and a merging of two utterly different beings, driven by primal need, survival instinct, and the bizarre, powerful resonance between them. He ran his hands over her back, feeling the intricate patterns of her skin, the powerful muscles beneath. She moved against him, instinctively exploring the contours of his body, her touch both demanding and seeking. It wasn't just sex, it was a ritual, a declaration, a fusion forced by circumstance and sealed by alien resonance. He felt the buildup of energy within him, matching the escalating hum and the flaring light around them. Her touch became more specific, more possessive, her fingers tracing a path down his spine, across his flank. He groaned into her mouth, losing himself in the alien sensations, the overwhelming presence of her. This wasn't the awkward curiosity of their first kiss. This was raw, urgent, resonant. Her hips pressed against his, a silent demand that he understood on a level deeper than words. He shifted, pulling her leg around his hip in the tight space, adjusting their bodies to fit together in a desperate, urgent tangle. Her multifaceted eyes were closed now, her head thrown back slightly, the humming from her throat nodes reaching a fever pitch. He felt her fingers dig into his skin, leaving behind faint, glowing imprints that matched the patterns on her own body. A marking, a claim, physically etched onto his skin. As the energy peaked, surging through both of them, focused and amplified by their physical connection, he felt a sudden sharp sensation, like a needle pricking his chest, directly over his heart. A single small spot of glowing light appeared on his sternum, a new pattern forming, different from the lines her fingers had left, a final permanent mark of the bond. He cried out, not entirely in pain but from the sheer intensity, the overwhelming surge of alien energy and sensation that coursed through him, culminating in a release that was both physical and something else, something deeper tied to the resonance, the bond, the ancient rituals of this alien world. Vrika's body convulsed against his, her humming breaking into a series of sharp, resonant cries, the glowing patterns across her skin flashing brilliantly before subsiding slightly. The air in the spires vibrated, shimmering, almost visible with the aftermath of their joined energy. They clung to each other in the aftermath, bodies slick with sweat and something else, something that smelled faintly of ozone and alien pleasure. The humming from Vrika's throat nodes was a soft, contented purr now, a deep vibration that resonated against his chest where her head rested. His heart hammered against the new, glowing mark on his sternum. His muscles ached, but the strange energy coursing through him made the exhaustion bearable. The silence outside the spires felt different now, the keening of the predators softer, less urgent, perhaps confused by the sudden intense burst of shielded resonance. He shifted slightly, and Vrika tensed, then relaxed again, pressing closer. Her skin felt warm and somehow different against his. The glowing patterns on her body were subdued now, pulsing gently, mirroring the faint glow on his own chest and arm. "The bond is sealed," Vrika stated, her voice low and raspy against his skin. "By resonance, by ritual, by Datu being, what he might to mirror to knuckle dot night doing pre-habian." This physical merging. She lifted her head, her multifaceted eyes meeting his in the dim light. There was a new look in them, a mix of possessiveness, confusion, and something that resembled awe. "Your essence. Vardat the lot now there of Romber building no you at. It is strong. It weaves with mine. I feel connected." In a way the rituals described but did not truly explain. She traced the new mark on his chest with a fingertip. "This, one Ford, it is the mark of the claimed, of the resonant. It is permanent. Now, they know, the elders, the consumed." He nodded, still trying to process the sheer alien intensity of what had just happened. Sex that was also a ritual, a bond, a marking, a defense. His simple scavenger life felt a million miles away. "So, we just announced to everyone that we're a thing?" he asked, managing a weak grin. "Via alien power sex in a rock?" Vrika didn't quite understand the humor, but she recognized the tone. "We declared our resonance, our dominance. Together." She looked towards the entrance of the spires. "Now we present ourselves, not as those who hide, but as those who claim their place, their power." She stood, her movements fluid and powerful despite the recent exertion. The living armor patterns on her skin seemed to settle into a more defined structure, outlining powerful curves and sharp angles. She was still an alien warrior, but something had fundamentally shifted. She was his alien warrior. And he was hers. The thought was both terrifying and strangely comforting. They emerged from the moon shadow spires as the twin moons reached their zenith, casting long, deep shadows across the desert. The keening predators had retreated, circling high above, wary of the strong, shielded resonance that now emanated from the spires. Waiting, but closer, silhouettes began to appear on the horizon, figures moving towards the spires. The elders. Vrika stood tall, her bearing regal and defiant. Kale stood beside her, his body still humming with the strange energy of the bond, the new mark on his chest warm against his skin. He felt exposed, vulnerable, but also a strange sense of solidarity with the alien woman who had claimed him. He reached out instinctively and took her hand. Her grip was firm, her skin warm and radiating that deep resonance. The humming from her throat nodes increased, a steady thrum of power and readiness. The elders arrived, a group of figures draped in dark robes, their faces hidden, but their eyes glowing with the same violet light as Vrika's. They moved with slow, deliberate steps, radiating an aura of ancient authority and judgment. The air crackled with tension as they stopped before Vrika and Kale, forming a semicircle. Vrika, daughter of the resonant line. "You have claimed that which is unclaimed," one of them rasped, the voice dry and ancient, lacking the vibrant resonance of Vrika's speech. "You performed the trial of the arena. You drew the consumed. You sought sanctuary in the moon shadows." The elder's gaze swept over Kale, lingering on the glowing mark on his chest. "And you bear the mark of claiming, forged not by sanctioned ritual, but by illicit resonance in the shadows." Vrika stepped forward slightly, pulling Kale with her, their joined hands a clear symbol of their unity. "I claimed that which survived the dust," Vrika stated, her voice strong and resonant, echoing slightly in the open space. "He proved worthy in the arena. He resonated with this world. And he resonated with me. The bond is strong. It defies consumption." Another elder spoke, their voice equally dry. "Strength is judged by the rituals of the ancestors, not by chaotic merging. The mark is proof of connection, yes, but the ritual was not observed. The claim is, Gisel, all you know here pukin do is using koti yula tubiro." Irregular, unsanctioned. The air grew colder, heavier with disapproval. Kale felt a prickle of fear, but he held Vrika's hand tighter. This was it, their judgment. Vrika faced them head-on. "The resonance determines the bond, elder. The ritual is a framework, a guide. When destiny presents a resonant partner, one claims them by the strongest means available. The dust brought him. The arena accepted him. My essence claimed his. The consumed were drawn, and we defied them, together." She raised their joined hands slightly. "This bond is not weak. It is potent, resonant. To deny it, to deny it is to defy the will of the dust itself." Her defiance hung in the air. It was a challenge, an assertion of her dominance not just over him, but over the rigid laws of her own culture. The elders were silent for a long moment, their glowing eyes fixed on them. The humming between Kale and Vrika intensified, a silent, powerful declaration of their intertwined existence. It wasn't just a sound, it was a force. Finally, the first elder spoke, their voice carrying a hint of something. Not approval, but perhaps reluctant acknowledgement. "The mark is present. The resonance, del zo bondo handavid de windows of Banner Jackson, le compix bolame, the guin the lubricant thinks detain, with the wismal rates, but no ricket and legitgiven no way here tall. But tisn't heared, it is felt, stronger than anticipated for an unclaimed." The elder paused, then looked directly at Kale. "You, ground crawler, you were alien, unworthy, yet you bear the mark. What say you, who carries the resonance of Vrika, daughter of the resonant line?" All eyes, human and alien, were on him. Kale took a deep breath. He wasn't about to wax poetic or pretend he understood all the nuances of alien law or ritual. But he understood survival. He understood loyalty, even if it had been unexpectedly forged. He looked at Vrika, at the strange, fierce loyalty in her multifaceted eyes, at the bond mark glowing faintly on his chest. He wasn't just a scavenger anymore. He was claimed, and maybe, just maybe, she was too. "I say." "She's stuck with me," Kale said, his voice steady, laced with his usual sarcasm but underlined with something else, something genuine. "Your dust tried to kill me. Your arena tried to test me. Your predators tried to eat us, and she claimed me. We survived it all. Together. You want to deny that resonance? You want to break that bond?" He squeezed Vrika's hand. "You'll have to go through both of us." His words weren't ritualistic or profound, but they were him. Defiant, practical, loyal. Vrika's grip on his hand tightened, and the humming from her throat nodes pulsed with a new intensity, not just resonance, but something that felt like pride. The elders conferred amongst themselves in low, clicking tones that Kale couldn't understand. The tension was unbearable. Finally, the first elder turned back to them. The mark is undeniable. The shared resonance, it is potent. You have defied the conventional path. You have claimed each other through strength and resonance, as the ancestors claimed their mates through trial and will. The elder gestured towards the moon shadow spires. The bond holds against the consumed. This is proof of its validity. Unsanctioned. Hub. But valid. The elder hesitated. Vrika, daughter of the resonant line. Oh, your claim is acknowledged. The ground crawler bears your mark. He is yours. By resonance. By blood and dust. Kamal felt a wave of relief, quickly followed by the realization of what yours meant. No longer just an individual, but bound to her culture, to this strange, dangerous planet. The elders began to disperse, melting back into the shadows from which they came, their judgment delivered. Vrika turned to Cal, her multifaceted eyes gleaming. The dominance was still there, but it was tempered now, overlaid with something else, possessiveness, maybe even a hint of tenderness in her alien way. You spoke well, groundcrawler, she said, her voice low and resonant. You claimed your place beside me, before the elders, before the ancestors. She lifted his hand, examining the glowing mark on his chest. The bond is recognized. We are? Mate claimed. By resonance. She met his gaze, and for the first time Kale saw something akin to an emotion he understood. Fierce, unwavering loyalty. This is a new path, she said. Not just to him, but to herself. Unforeseen, but potent. You are my claimed. I am your dictate. I am your bondmate. She leaned her head against his shoulder, the soft purr of her humming filling his ear. He wrapped an arm around her, holding her close. He was stuck on an alien world, bonded to a powerful alien woman, hunted by her culture's enforcers, with no ship and no clear way home. But as he stood there with her in the moonlight, the mark on his chest warm, the resonance between them a comforting hum, he realized that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't unclaimed anymore. And that felt like survival too. A new kind of survival.